Hello and welcome back to Continental Club, where we discuss the hottest topics in European football. And look who's here. It's Henry Hill and Michael McCubbin. Hey guys.
Hello.
How are you, Mikey?
Yeah, I'm well, thanks.
Yeah.
How are you?
All good, thank you. All good. It's been a quiet week of transfers,
It
which
really
has been
has.
the only downside. Apparently, well, I know it's actually because the football financial year ends at the end of June, so loads of clubs were trying to do their business before the end of June, and now I reckon in July they are counting their pennies and seeing what they can still do. But having said that, we are talking about dream signings today, which we'll come on to in due course once we find out how Henry Hill is.
Amazing.
Yeah?
Thank you. Although I turned up today in the office and discovered from you two, who both have big gleaming smiles, that Saudi Arabia have bid for, I say Saudi Arabia, Al Hilal have bid for Mitrovic, which is...
Come on, it is quite funny when someone's favourite player or like best player is potentially leaving.
I completely
It's like
understand.
if
where you're
Rashford
coming
was
from.
going to PSG.
Or potentially Harry Kane's going to PSG. That's what they're saying now. No, yeah. I mean, I don't know. I don't think Fulham should sell for 30 million euros. I will say one funny transfer. I love the fact that on Across FD we've been talking about Victor Gyökeres going to someone in the Premier League. No, he's gone to sport. He's gone to Sporting in Portugal.
Yeah, great.
Which actually is a really fun move for him. I think that's quite smart from Sporting because they could still probably sell him on. But yeah, I quite like that as a transfer. I'm just hoping that Mitrovic doesn't leave these English shores as well. Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed indeed. But no, I'm a big fan of that Victor Gyökeres move. Link it up with Marcus Edwards, who's still staying there as well, by the looks of things. Surprised there hasn't been more chat about him.
By the way, we suggested Alvarez, the Man City striker, as a potential Bayern Munich signing, didn't we? And then audaciously said Tottenham should maybe look at him. Well, apparently he now wants to leave. Now wants to leave City. Do you not see? Do you not
I
see
did
that
not
gossip?
see that. That would have changed some of my dream signings.
For 70 million, 70 million is what they value him.
Okay.
Apparently, that's
Interesting.
what I've heard.
Worth
Could be on the
keeping in
move.
mind. Worth keeping in mind. Well, as I said, today we're discussing one dream signing for every elite Champions League level club. So we're not talking about Europa League level clubs. They've got to be in the Champions League. And Henry, we're kicking off with Real Madrid. Henry is going to act as the sort of hearsay sporting director, final say guy. We're going to suggest two players. And what sort of players were you suggesting that Real Madrid could have looked at, Henry?
Yeah, it's interesting. I think they've got a pretty good squad, but if you look at kind of the tired legs from last year, potentially a new right back to take some minutes off Dani Carvajal, or potentially a centre forwards as a Joselu alternative. I'm not so down on Joselu as a sort of 1 year filler, as it were, but for Mbappe. I don't think they're going to sign Mbappe this year, but I mean, maybe you've suggested, maybe not. But yes, a right back or a centre forward is what I had in mind. So
Fair enough. McCubbs, do you want to take it away?
I mean, I've gone pretty simple, to be honest. I have gone for Mbappe. Like, he's still the dream signing. I think, if they decide to let Mbappe run down his contract to PSG, it's probably the smart thing to do, money-wise. But if they want to make themselves essentially favourites for the Champions League next year and wrestle the title back off Barcelona. They don't have Karim Benzema up top anymore. Like, that attack is significantly weaker than it was last season, and last season the attack wasn't even good enough to win La Liga in the end. I think they need to go for their man. Like, it depends. Like, we're talking about dream signings here, and a dream signing for Real Madrid is someone who bags them the Champions League and La Liga next year. I think Mbappe is that guy. I think a right back for sure. They need to go into the market for. But actually, I've got quite a few other right backs going to other clubs down here, so I didn't go for a right back for them. Left back, you'd hope that Fran Garcia will kind of come in and kind of step things up for them back there and allow Camavinga to come in to midfield. Yeah, I think Mbappe, I don't really need to go into why. Like, I think Mbappe, he feels destined now to go to Real Madrid. Obviously, who knows what will happen in, once that saga really builds up towards the end of the month when PSG supposedly have this ultimatum for him to sign a contract. But yeah, Mbappe.
Fair enough. Yeah, I actually didn't go Mbappe just because I don't think it's going to happen this summer. So I wanted to be a little bit more realistic. Well, he still is fairly realistic, but even more realistic.
Yeah.
It does feel like goals is what they're short of. Benzema still scored 31 in all competitions last year, which is a quite ridiculous tally. And as you say, I think they can get away with another year of Carvajal and Eder Militao, covering as their right back. But I wanted a young striker that wouldn't necessarily mind being eventually dropped from Mbappe. And I actually went with Luis Openda.
Okay.
I just think He's a quite similar stylistic fit in many ways to the traits that Mbappe has got in terms of his speed, in terms of his running in behind, in terms of his range of finishing. And it's not just one good year at Lens. He was also really good for Vitesse on loan the year before as well. I think he scored 49 goals over his last 2 seasons, which is really, really promising. Look, it's not necessarily the sexiest signing in the world, but I think it's someone that wouldn't mind sharing minutes with Joselu up front. And it feels... Maybe it's too realistic for dream signing, but I just thought it was one that could potentially get done and with not too much fuss.
Yeah, it is tricky because, like you said, the obvious answer is Mbappe, but I agree with you. I think he'll probably go next year. But then again, would they then spend a hefty fee
On someone else?
On a young striker? Oh, it's tricky actually in this regard.
I'm perfectly happy to cede to Mbappe.
Yeah, for the dream factor, we'll go Mbappe, but actually, I think Openda would be fun as well.
Fair enough.
Cool.
There we have.
All
1-0 to Mikey. We're actually going to score this because I'm a really competitive guy and I do enjoy the scoring. So 1-0 to
Okay,
McCall.
so let's not lose count of this.
Yes.
Okay.
Henry,
James
what were
for the
you
camera.
thinking about for Barcelona?
Okay, anywhere on the left side, really. A left back or a left winger in case Ferran Torres is moved on, or Ansu Fati, because there's still question marks over the trust in him, I think. Or left back, it's just Balde I can see, and then Marcos Alonso. I don't need to say much more on that. So anywhere on the left side is where I was thinking, but I'm open to this one. I wasn't quite sure because they've got lots of bodies across the team.
Dukes, do you want to go first?
Yeah, I didn't actually suggest anyone on the left. I suggested a right back so they can move Jules Koundé into the centre. As good as Andreas Christensen was last year, and I still think he's an excellent backup to Araujo, I just think that Araujo-Koundé partnership has the potential to be one of the best in the world, and I really want to see that come to fruition. So I want them to sign a right back, and someone who Barcelona were looking at, but prior to his move to Bayern Munich, was Nusser Mazraoui.
Yeah.
It obviously didn't go that well at Bayern Munich for him last year. Pavard was sort of keeping him outside of the side. He was talking about at various points during the year how he just was quite surprised by his lack of game time in a way. And this is a really very solid ball-playing right back. When he's fit, which, he had some issues at Ajax, but less so last season, I think he's one of the outstanding ball-playing right backs in the world. He also is defensive enough that would cover for Balde running forward. I just felt like he seemed like a nice fit, and I don't think he cost a whole lot as well. So, Nusser Mazraoui, bring him in.
I've also gone for a right back.
Yeah, to be fair, the second you said right back, it made a complete sense to me.
Fullback in general,
Yeah.
actually. Okay, so this might appeal to you more, Henry, actually. So originally, actually, I was thinking about the defensive midfield position because, of course, Sergi Busquets has left. Gundogan, I don't think, is going to be brought in, isn't being brought in as a defensive-minded midfielder necessarily. I think he's probably there more as a link-up kind of midfielder, someone who can bring a bit of experience, someone like Pedri and Gavi can learn off a bit potentially. But they are going for Oriol Romeo. Supposedly as a kind of budget option there, so I think they're kind of sorted.
Thoughts
there.
on that quickly, Mikhail?
It's fine. I mean, Joe was talking about him last week, wasn't he?
Said he was the best player on the pitch?
He said he was the best player on the
When you
pitch, so
watched him?
that's good enough for me, Formula Mazia boy. Yeah, to be honest, like I've always been a bit sceptical as to why Frankie hasn't been trusted there. I know he hasn't necessarily had his best games at Barca there, but like he was great for Ajax in that position. So I don't know. To be honest, Barca don't have that much money to spend. There are more pressing concerns for them, I think. And if they can get in a stopgap at defensive midfield, someone who can just do a fairly simple job. It's not like Busquets was like running games in the way that he used to in previous years. They wanted Martin Zubimendi, didn't he? He's out of their budget. So and Romel had a pretty good season last year. But anyway,
Who for?
Girona, I think.
Girona, yeah.
Haven't quite step up.
So yeah, just down the road. But anyway, so yeah, I was thinking for a fullback. Originally, I was thinking Ben White, but I think he's out of their budget, and I don't think Arsenal will sell. Joao Cancelo, I think, could be gettable potentially on a loan. I don't think Man City are going to lower their asking price with his contract running down, with his contract up in 2027, sorry. And I think he fits the bill in terms of he can cover for Balde at left back. I think Balde played something like 2,500 minutes last year, which was the fifth most in the Barca squad. And he's obviously an excellent attacking right back as well. Older than Mazraoui, of course, at 29, but I think on a short-term deal.
Yeah,
I think he's 30 next year.
Wow.
But I mean, he is, one of the best fullbacks in world football and very versatile and can contribute in the midfield as well. He can invert from the right and the left. He's I think he will suit Xavi's style of play impeccably. The only thing is that his age profile isn't amazing and he's on fairly big wages. But if they can get Kessié off the books, then I think there may be space for him there.
Again, it's tricky because I think Cancelo is obviously more of a dream addition than Mazraoui, but I think Mazraoui is actually would make a lot more sense in terms of the budget wise and the fact that probably, age profile.
He's torn.
Oh, I'm torn with this. They're both very good suggestions.
Mazraoui was in my thinking as well when I was looking at this.
I'm going to go for Cancelo just because I think he would fit. I've seen those links before, and I think you're right. The fact that he can cover left back, I do think is important. And I just think he's more of like an elite player, really, at this point in time. But yeah, like I said, I think Mazraoui would be very good.
Fair enough.
There's 11 teams, so there's plenty of time.
The comeback needs to start now.
That's all right.
2-0. Right, okay. Let's move over to France now. And Henry, we're going to talk PSG, who have actually been quite busy at the start of this window.
They absolutely have. I would like either an attacking creative midfielder, potentially, or a centre-forward target man.
Simple as that.
I know they just got Kang In Lee, but is that really? Look, great season last year at Mallorca. I'm really pleased that he's finally kind of found his feet in La Liga, but I don't want the whole pressure to be on him to be the creative guy next season because, like I said, I don't think you can be defined by one good season, even if it was very impressive. So, yes, McCubbin, who have you gone for?
Well, considering that in my world, Real Madrid are signing Mbappe, I've just gone for, someone who will guarantee goals from centre forward, presuming Neymar stays for that final year of his contract as well. And De Laurentiis recently came out and said that PSG are the only club that can afford him. Victor Osimhen. Again, not the most imaginative signing. I feel like I put more work into finding signings for some other clubs.
That's right.
With PSG,
they kind of need a glamour pick, though, don't they?
They do a bit, and they've already done a lot of business as well. And it's just like, when you're looking at centre forwards for PSG, you just don't back them to go kind of lower in the market than the kind of creme de la creme. Especially if Mbappe were to leave, like they do need that player. Like he's not a completely flawless signing. Like I still have concerns over his injury record, but I think someone who can drop back into Liga and potentially double his goal tally from his Lille days in terms of what he would get in a season. I think Victor Osimhen would be an excellent choice.
Yes, it's a good choice, Dukes.
Well, I'm slightly frustrated at the news that's broken in the last hour because I wrote 2 words down. I wrote Harry Kane. And now it is actually potentially coming to fruition. I wanted to be the guy to suggest it, but apparently PSG are also thinking of it. But I think it does make a lot of sense. Look, this is a guy that I don't think Bayern Munich are going to be able to afford this summer. I think Real Madrid are going to wait and see what happens with Mbappe. And it doesn't feel like Levy's going to sell him to any Premier League club. It feels like PSG could soon be the only horse in the race that can properly afford him. And I think if PSG offer £100 million to Spurs would be absolutely bonkers to turn that down. They're not really a direct rival of Spurs. They've not really competed in the Champions League in the last few years in the latter stages. And PSG, it's outside of the country, can't do damage to them. And almost in a way, a lot of Spurs fans would comfort themselves by the fact that, yes, he didn't win anything at Spurs, but he's gone to a club where he's almost guaranteed to. And it's a little bit of a soulless move in many ways. I wouldn't be, swinging from the chandelier if Kane moved to PSG. It's very difficult to feel a lot of passion for that club. But at the same time, for him personally, he would test himself in another league. He'd have that guarantee of trophies. I think Ligue 1 would be easier on his body as well. So for him, it would be a sensible move as he approaches 30. And I think in a different way to Osimhen, he's almost more of a guarantee because of that injury record, although he is about 5-6 years older. But PSG haven't really minded about that in the past. And he is a model professional in a very different way than Messi, Mbappe and Neymar have been this season. So to me, he makes a lot of sense for PSG.
I agree. I completely agree. I think also the fact that he'd probably be more willing just to move to Paris. I think it's quite...
He wouldn't even need to move to Paris, just €2,500.
That would be the ultimate footballer move to commute from London to Paris. I just don't see Bayern Munich getting up to the asking price that Tottenham want, whereas PSG probably kids. Like Victor Osimhen's a great move, but I feel like Napoli are probably going to hold on to him for another year. So yeah, Harry Kane.
He's on the board 2-1.
Nice.
Okay, like to be on the board.
He's also He's also like a bigger name. He's just a bigger name, more proven
I
star.
think he sells more shirts.
Yeah, I think he. Well, you say that. I mean,
Well, yeah. I actually
His
might
Hot
be taking
Ones
that
is
back.
dropping today.
his Hot
Ones is dropping
so
today.
excited. I want to watch that. I'm excited.
might have
Luis
already got
Campos, though, I imagine if he could afford Kane and Osimhen, would probably go for Osimhen, to be honest, just because that history with him, younger as well.
Yeah.
But anyway, I won on that one.
Should we just because I think that Bayern Munich is going to be the same position as we've just covered, can we go to Atletico Madrid?
Of course.
Okay.
What were you
first,
thinking?
Where I've actually got down potentially a Morata Griezmann alternative.
Ooh.
So, but actually, I want a strong holding midfielder to give the abundance of creativity in their other midfielders the license to push a bit more forward.
Oh, yeah.
I want a holding central midfielder.
I've got just the man for you.
Okay. Go on then.
Martin Zubimendi, Sociedad. Like I said, Barca can't afford him. Potentially Atletico might not be able to afford him as well. He's got a very big asking price, and he's also said, I think that he's pretty happy at Sociedad. But I just think if we're talking about a dream signing, I just think he fits the bill. I think he's that perfect kind of long-term Koke replacement in that holding role. He's far more mobile than Koke at this point. His passing is excellent. His decision-making is excellent. And I think he has been that foil. You know, without Zubimendi, would Mikel Mourinho be putting up the numbers that he has over the last few years? Not so sure. And he's also used to playing in, like quite an expansive team. At Sociedad, and as we've seen with Atleti over the last 6 months, well, actually over the last 2 years, there's been a lot of experimentation, and a lot of it didn't work, and then finally in the last 6 months of the season, it kind of things clicked into place. Diego Simeone is trying to play a more attacking style, a more expansive style at Atleti, and I feel like Zubimendi would be the perfect kind of signing to, like you say, allow that midfield to really flourish in front of him.
Do you?
Fair enough. I also went down the same route. Defensive midfielder. I feel like Atleti's difference point, they have been more attacking last season in particular, but that defence has dropped off quite a lot. I think their side's quite old now.
It is, seriously old.
So I'd be looking at someone pretty young. And I actually went for a guy that I suggested for PSG a few months ago on Sunday Vibes in Florentino Luis from Benfica.
Ooh.
23 years old, defensive midfield monster, over 6 defensive actions per 90 last season, excellent on the ball, and just feels like he's on the verge of a massive breakthrough in terms of his reputation as well. Has experienced different leagues as well. He went on loan to Monaco, he also went on loan to La Liga as well in the past. So I think he's got a good chance of, he went to Getafe, that was it, Getafe. So I think he's got a good chance of hitting the ground running, and there has been murmurs on Twitter that Liverpool are potentially looking at him now, but I think Atletico Madrid, if they offered say 30-40 million pounds to Benfica, I think Benfica might even come to the table at that. So I think it's an interesting one. They used Axel Witsel a bit in midfield, but mainly in defence last year. I think he was 7th for minutes, and loads of their squad are over 30. I think it was 6 of their 11 most used players. So Florentino Luis, really nice age, solid passer, and just covers the ground so well. And that partnership with Enzo Fernandez that was so effective in the first half of last year, you feel like he could recreate with a Koke or a Saul Niguez or someone, any of their midfield, or a Rodrigo de Paul potentially. So I like Florentino Luis to Atleti.
Yeah. Oh, this is really hard. Because they're both.
These are two of the best. Yeah, this is the closest one yet.
Yeah. I think they would both have to be around the 60 million euro mark, in all honesty. I feel as if Benfica have been able to charge such a premium
Big fees
for their young players. They wouldn't go relaxed at this point. But they do have a relationship with Atletico after that João Felix move. Then again, I suppose you could say Griezmann went to Atletico from Sociedad. I'm going to go Florentino Luis. I really like him. I think Zubimendi will get a big move at some point. I think right now, Luis could be...
I didn't want to try and sway you, but the only thing that was in my mind is Zubimendi has said that he's really happy at Real Sociedad.
Yeah.
So I just don't think he's moving.
They all just love playing for Real
rival.
Sociedad. It's
Why
quite
wouldn't
sweet
you?
in many
Yeah.
ways. It's beautiful
Nice
there.
place.
It is
Yeah.
beautiful. So
Really nice place.
2-2.
Exciting team. 2-2.
Right.
Cool.
Where do you want to go now, Henry?
Borussia Dortmund.
Okay.
So,
what were you thinking?
This is tricky. A right back, potentially a Wolf alternative, or an inverted winger as kind of like another option for Marlon, Adeyemi, Bino Gittins, and I think Reina. I think his future at that club hangs by a balance in some ways. So right back or a winger, but to be honest, I'm pretty open for whatever you guys have got on this one.
Fair. I didn't go down the forward route. I actually think they're quite well stocked for forwards, to be honest, with Makoko as well.
Oh, yeah, that's a good
I
point.
thought about right backs, but then I didn't think it was actually as pressing as signing another midfielder because of Rafa Guerrero leaving and, of course, Bellingham. I know they've got Felix Mecha, but I still think they'll look a little short in midfield.
Yeah.
You know, the player that I actually think would have made a lot of sense for them is Sergej Milinkovic-Savic. I think would have been awesome for Dortmund. Obviously, a little bit at the other end of the age profile that they generally shop at. No resale value as well, so perhaps they wouldn't have gone for that in the end. But definitely someone that they could have, but that ship has sailed. I actually suggested Yusuf Fofana of Monaco. Quite a well-rounded midfielder, good defensive impact, but also a really, really good ball carrier. I think last year he was at around 2.5 dribbles per 90. He was in the top 10% for completion as well. Progressive carries were really good. And yes, he doesn't have the goal threat of Jude Bellingham. I think he's only scored 3 goals in the last 3 seasons. So he's been mainly used as a more defensive-minded midfielder. But I think it solidifies them a little bit going backwards as well, because Sally Ozcan probably hasn't had the impact many people were expecting. Emre Can, there's still doubts about whether he's the guy to hold down that defensive midfield position.
There are big doubts. There are big doubts.
In Henry's mind. So he could cover that role, but he could also be used a little bit more box-to-box as well. So that's where I went. Although, having done that pitch, I'm not completely sold on it. I'm intrigued who McCubs went for.
Yeah.
I've not actually gone for a midfielder. I do feel like the outlay on a Mecha suggests that, in terms of like an attack-minded midfielder, that's the guy they're going to go with. They've obviously got Julian Brandt, who can play excellently in an advanced position in the midfield too. If they are to, trust Özcan or trust Chan as the kind of sole number 6. But I have actually gone for a right back here. I think, Mounier, Mori in particular, I don't think they're really up to the level. I mean, it's been unfortunate with Mori, but it's just his injury record has just been so bad, hasn't it? And Wolf, I just don't think is, I think he's easily upgradable. And they've obviously at left back, they've replaced Guerrero with Bensebaini, who is not a particularly attack-minded left back. And you could say, let's bring in another left back, but I kind of think he is still a quality option. So why not go for the right back position as the one that's going to really aid the attack? And he's not similar to Guerrero, and particularly he's a flying fullback / wingback. Really, he is a wingback. It's Jeremy Frimpong from Bayer Leverkusen, the best right wingback in the Bundesliga last term. 8 goals, 7 assists. He's just absolutely electric. Going forward, he can really aid that attack as well, which was super, super exciting in the back half of last season. I think if that attack, that front 3/4, given given a summer to gel further, I think could be even more exciting next term. And I think Frimpong could be the perfect accompaniment to them. And I know that Dortmund don't play necessarily with a back 3, but when they attack, Emre Can tends to drop into the back 3, and the fullbacks are instructed to bomb forward. And I think, without Rafael Guerrero there now, you do need to have some wide threat coming, someone who's really a specialist in that area. And again, with that, with the midfield now weaker, having Frimpong, who will probably generally be playing higher most of the time, is another body in there as well. I feel like it's quite a natural step up for him as well. Like Bayer Leverkusen, a great project there, like at the moment, but like realistically, how long is Xabi Alonso going to stay? I feel Dortmund are just a much bigger club than them, and he is very used to the Bundesliga. He's still very young. He doesn't need that move to like an elite club at this moment in time. And I feel like if an elite club were going to come in for him, we would have heard about it by now. So I feel like it's a bit of a dream move for both the player and the club.
Interesting. Yeah. I think he costs a fair amment of money.
Yeah,
is what I would say.
My follow-up question.
But they do have money from the Bellingham sale.
They do. I also think Bayer Leverkusen have quite a legitimate shout to be, title challengers next year. I know we've said it in years gone by, but Leipzig have lost a lot of their top players. Yeah. Dortmund have lost a lot of their top players. Bayern are struggling to land their top targets. Leverkusen haven't lost anyone yet.
Mm-hmm. I think I think if Fofana was more like aggressive in the final third and was able to break the lines a bit more, then I'd be, because
I hear you.
they have a lot of those Ozcan. It's a similar profile, and this is dream move. I think it would cost silly money, which I don't think Borussia Dortmund really spends. But I do like the reasoning that if you had Guerrero, why not shift it to the right side and make it Frimpong? And for some reason, Bundesliga clubs do lots of business with each other. That's the dream move. That's the
I
dream move.
went there. Yeah.
Yeah,
Sweet.
I'm
Cheers.
going for Frimpong.
Cool.
Fair enough.
I would be shooketh if it happens.
It would be very fun though.
Right, Henri.
That'd be fun. Let's go
Who's you next?
Let's go to Juventus, and I have nothing written down because I think they could use most things in some ways.
I thought this was the hardest one to do, to be honest, because there's some very promising young players, but I think they could kind of need a number of players. Depends what formation they want to play as well. I don't know what Allegri's long-term plan is. I think they're quite short of top-quality centre-backs, except for Bremer, but they've got Danilo, who can play there. They're quite short of an out-and-out right-back now. Now Cuadrado's left, but then they've bought Timothy Weah, who played there last year for Lille. And do they want Kostic as their long-term left-back? I think that's a bit of a waste of his attacking talent. So they kind of need to replace Alexandro, and that's eventually what I settled on, that they needed a new left-back. Now, I've said many times on this show and others, I think there aren't that many quality left-backs out there that would join a club of Juventus's stature. I mean, that's kind of the wrong phrasing, that are at where they're at right now with their finances, really, because Juve, posted a record loss for an Italian club ever last year. They just don't have a lot to play with. They have obviously lost Di Maria, they've lost Cuadrado, they've lost some high earners. Pogba's future is a little bit uncertain. So not quite sure what they're going to have to play with. I actually went for someone who can play at left back, but who can also play in midfield. And I went with Sergi Gomez of Man City, who I just don't see getting much game time at all at Man City. If they do manage to bring in Gvardiol, they've still got Nathan Ake who can cover as a left back. And it feels like Sergio Gomez is just biding his time before eventually leaving. I don't think he cost a whole lot for them. He only played 349 minutes last season. I mean, it's a very small sample size, but in that he ranked in the top 5% for assists, passes attempted, passes completed, progressive passes, and he can also play in midfield. He's also played as a 10, I believe, for Spain's under-21 side, if I'm not mistaken.
Wow.
So he can be used around the pitch, and I think he's quite gettable. As for Dream, he's a little bit on the softer side of Dream.
I think you've got a bit soft on some of these Teagues. You've gone realistic. You've gone smart.
It's difficult.
Yeah, my one might be too much of a dream. I have gone for centre back. I actually didn't appreciate just how depleted that Juve squad could be going into the new season in terms of the outgoings this summer. But I kind of very quickly just decided Bremer needs a top class partner next to him. And I know Bremer can generally play on the right or the left, but Bonucci's gone. You want that, you want someone who can effectively be, the person I'm going to suggest is a massive upgrade on what Bonucci was towards the end of his career, but I think could be a transformative signing for their general play, let alone their defence. I've gone for Aymeric Laporte from Man City. 30 million euros apparently could be enough to get him out. That is apparently too much for Juve at the moment. But if there's any way they can do it, if they can get Man City to lower their price, I feel like Laporte is on his way out this summer. Gvardiol's come in. Where on earth does Laporte fit into that back line? I would be very keen for a move if I was him. I was also considering Laporte as the option for Napoli, but I think a club of Juve's stature feels more like a destination for Laporte, and I'm not sure what other club that can claim to be kind of the biggest in their country would be going in for him this summer. Yeah. Given the business that PSG have done, given the business that Bayern Munich have done, and I think he would be a really transformative signing there. I think in terms of Juve being able to play out from the back a bit more, having someone who, like Bonucci in his prime, was able to really aid the team in build-up, really set the pace from the back. Someone who's also just an excellent defender, can cover at left back as well if needed. I've gone for him.
Yeah, to be honest, I think that is more of a dream move than Gomez in this point in time. I like the idea. I haven't actually watched too much of Gomez, in all honesty. And I do think that they could maybe get it done by the end of the window. With who? Because you were recommending Ravella. Is it Ravella, the midfielder for Juventus?
Yep.
As a potential target for other clubs. So there are ways. They've done so well blooding in young players that there are ways they could probably sell to earn a bit of money this year. So I'm going to go.
Also got the Napoli sporting director. What's his name again?
Gianfoli.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
he's a magic maker in the market.
And I think with Laporte, Man City will be less. I think they could strike a better deal.
I feel like City at this point would be willing to maybe come down a little bit if they know that
to get him out of England.
To get him out of England, yeah. Because I mean, I know they're not particularly scared of selling to. They managed to sell two great players to Arsenal last year and still won the league. But like, I think having done that, I could imagine City being a little bit more hesitant given just how successful they were. So yeah, unless like Spurs come in for him, in which case maybe they would. But yeah.
Before you all shout, Doogie, you're not going for dream signings. I'm also trying to be quite realistic for a lot of these clubs.
It's
as
true.
Well.
It's true.
A lot of these clubs don't have a lot of money, so I'm working within boundaries. I'm not saying Laporte is really unrealistic. I'm just saying it is difficult to find dream signings with these budgets.
You're completely right. I had that issue. I'm going to go for Laporte on this occasion.
Fair enough.
Just because I think it's more realistic.
I think it's 5-2 maybe.
4-2.
4-2.
It's all good.
Let's go to.
We haven't done Bayern. We can go back
to Bayern, or should we?
Or should we carry on with this?
I had for Milan and Inter both central midfielders.
Ooh, interesting.
But
Milan are potentially looking at this guy from AZ Alkmaar, who I don't know a lot about, but I've been doing a bit of reading for this show because I thought I might as well fill you on it. Tijani Reinders is a Dutch name, so I apologise on the pronunciation. I do struggle with Dutch names. But yeah, central midfielder at AZ, 3 goals and 7 assists last year. Comes in under the radar for me at least, but yeah, 20 million euros supposedly is what Milan have offered so far. They want 25. Feels like that deal will eventually be done. More of a ball carrying midfielder, so probably the sort of profile they were looking at in Sergej Milinkovic-Savic before he went to Saudi or before they decided he was too expensive. Nearly 1.7 dribbles per 90, so that's really, really promising. Feels like a kind of similar profile to Loftus-Cheek, which is a little bit confusing. I thought they might go for a Loftus-Cheek or this guy, and then a more defensive-minded midfielder to cover for Tonali's exit. But yeah, that's a bit of background on him.
That's
not my suggestion.
Oh, right, okay.
Oh, right, no. I was just filling you in.
I was going to say, I really like it.
Oh, yeah, no, that one feels like it's already been done.
Okay.
So I was going to suggest a striker, because I think they do, with Zlatan having left and Giroud 36.
I think he's 37 in September.
37 in September, there we go. You're 36 until you're 37, but yeah 37 in September. That famous tweet. But yeah, Pulisic is in the door, can play at right wing or centre forward, or centre 10, I was going to say, as a number 10. So they also need a right winger. I think Samuel Chukwueze, who they're looking at, would be really exciting.
Yeah, very fun.
So I really, really like that. Was going to suggest Gianluca Scamacca on loan. Not a dream signing, though. I'm going Mitrovic, baby. Get him in at Milan. He's going to cost a lot, but, I've learnt from the error of my ways. You want big name signings. Mitrovic wants out of Fulham, or at least he's interested in the idea of going to Saudi, probably tempted by the money. Milan wouldn't be able to offer that, but they'd be able to offer Champions League football. Fulham potentially are going to take a massive drop-off next season in the Premier League, particularly with all these rumours going on behind the scenes. Have a little cheeky bid. 25, 30 million, get in his head.
Oh, my goodness.
It's tasty.
Did you? Oh, have you done that with me in mind?
You look personally upset.
Oh, I do I like Milan. I'd rather sell him to Milan than to
Saudi.
Al Hilal. Who have you gone for, McCoven?
I'm disappointed you're considering Callum Wilson. I quite liked that.
Yeah, I was considering.
But I like Mitro as well. I've gone actually for someone who's been a bit more directly linked with them, not maybe as fun a shout, but still fun, quite a fun shout in terms of the player that he is. Folarin Balogun, Arsenal, probably going to need to sell him this summer. He doesn't want to be a backup striker, and actually, I think I didn't quite appreciate just how good a season he had in Liga last year.
That's crazy.
21 goals in Liga for Rance, who, at least until Will Still came in, were not in the best of form, but he was still scoring for them even before that. A side that, operated at under 50% possession last year. general underdogs in that league, very much more than the sum of their parts. But what was most striking, actually, because I think when Balogun was getting talked about towards the end of last year, there was a lot of like, oh yeah, well, he scored 21 goals, but Lacazette's outscored him, so like, what's so special about that? Our office was, of course, dominated by Arsenal fans, so there you go. There's a lot of prejudice towards Lacazette. But what was most striking, looking back at him just over the last day, he had the highest XG in all of France.
Yep.
26.6 XG, 21 goals scored, more than Mbappe in terms of XG. Didn't play that many more minutes than him. I think he took 2 more penalties than him. In a side that produced much less. Going forward. Despite that, they were still a very effective attacking team. They had the 6th best XG in France, despite not having much possession. They were a very good pressing side. They were a very smart pressing side in terms of the areas of the pitch in which they targeted opposition. They tried to spend as much time in the opposition half as possible, even if they were out of possession. And Balogun was kind of perfect for that because his movement inside the box is just so good. All his goals came inside the area. He's just excellent at picking up space, and that's kind of Milan became more of a counter-attacking team last year. Giroud was very good in terms of becoming a bit more of a in the box predator last term too. And having said that, Balogun is also very involved in play. I think he ranks among the top strikers in Europe in terms of progressive passes received. I think he just profiles really well. He's at a really good age, and he's really, really determined to kind of make it to the top. And Milan have been crying out for a young, hungry centre forward who is destined for great things. Balogun, when he was coming through at Arsenal, at points was getting talked about more than Saka. Before Saka kind of made his breakthrough, it was kind of him and Balogun were the two kind of jewels in the crown of that of their youth system. So this is a guy who's got massive potential. 30 million euros, I think, or 30 million pounds is what it would take. Again, like Milan would have to scrape around a little bit, but there should still be, hopefully, somewhere in their budget. They obviously did the Tonali deal. If they get in, was it Reinders from Alkmaar? That's another 20 mil gone. But they need a centre forward. Like, they really need a centre forward. I'm not sure why they haven't been prioritising one so far this term. I think they still need an elite creator as well. Like, I'm not sure whether Pulisic will definitely be that from the right or from the centre, because his creative numbers have never been that huge. And Tonali and Diaz, they were the 2 of the top 3 creators in the side last year. So that is still a hole that needs filling. But in terms of someone who can get on the end of chances really well, in a side that doesn't necessarily have all that much of the ball, I think Balogun would be great.
Yeah, it's gone more realistic.
Potentially, yeah.
I agree. Actually, I'll probably get hammered for saying this, but I still think like Mitrovic's career is enough to say that he is a bigger name striker than Balogun. It's not just that. Like, if you look at what he does for Serbia, his goal return is insane. That what he did in the championship, people say it's the championship, to score that many goals, for over 40 in the championship, is absurd. And he has been consistently a great striker for Fulham for a number of years now. And I do think that maybe he would want to move. I'm going to go for Mitrovic. I think that's more of a... I think I need to see more. I think for Balogun, considering Arsenal, I think actually going to want more than 30 million. I think they're asking for something silly, like 40 or 50 from this year. I don't see how Milan get him through the door.
You see less of an instant return on that money than, say, if they spent 40 on Mitrovic and Balogun, you just think Mitrovic is more of a surefire fit.
I think so. I think
agree
with the players that they're getting in, Chukwueze, Pulisic, got Leao as well. I think someone like Mitrovic, who's actually, people think of him more of a lump. He actually works quite hard, and his finishing is really impressive. His finishing is quite impressive. So I'm going to go for Mitrovic, but yes, okay. Balogun in another world.
I thought I was going to be disqualified for mentioning Mitrovic. I'm delighted.
No, you know what?
You played on his heartstrings there.
Love it.
You know what? Go on.
4-3. 4-3? 5-3.
4-3.
4-3. Please, can we, while we're in Milan, can we stick in Milan?
Okay.
Go to Inter Milan.
Okay.
Yes.
Internazionale.
Okay. You wanted a midfielder for them,
Yeah.
Brozovic replacement.
Essentially.
This was tough because I think there's a lot of really interesting young kind of defensive, deep-lying midfielders available in Europe. And I didn't necessarily go into the stats too much, but I just think in terms of someone who I think could fill that Brozovic hole quite nicely in terms of the way that he plays. I think Manu Kone from Borussia Dortmund would be a really nice fit.
Borussia Mönchengladbach.
Borussia Mönchengladbach. Would be a lovely fit there. 22 years old. You could sign him. Signing a player who you could potentially have for 10 years. I don't really want to see Hakan Çalhanoğlu playing that role for an entire season. This Inter side needs to be gunning for the title next year. It really is all to play for in Serie A once again. But Napoli, are almost certainly going to drop off in some way or other next year. Milan are now doing some quite good business. Juve, I think, are going to come back. I think they've done some smart things, and they were pretty good in the second half of last year. I think Allegri is back in form as a manager. There's a title. There's a title up for grabs, and I think Manu Kone could add a lot more mobility to that midfield. He, is a decent passer. He likes to drive as well. He's a good dribbler, very press resistant. The only downside is that he does have a knee injury at the moment that's keeping him out till mid-August. So that is, a bit of an annoyance in terms of getting him through the door, in terms of getting him match fit for the start of the season. But I do still think it would be worth the wait because he is a super, big talent. Liverpool were targeting him before. I think he would really suit that kind of 5-man midfield that Inter have.
So strong pitch. I know Fratesi, from what I read, they've agreed a €6 million loan, and then they'll make it permanent next year, which makes sense when you consider their finances and the fact that they're edging towards a Lukaku purchase, which is still quite a big fee for them at this moment in time. So really fun player. I just think he would probably cost €40 million. Do you think?
I don't know if he would. I'm not
30?
sure. I'm not sure how much he's got left as contract. I'm not sure. I think we were talking about him potentially as €30 million to Liverpool a few weeks ago. So I don't think he will necessarily cost that much.
Yeah.
Okay. What's your perspective on Inter, Dukes?
Just a quick thing on Kone. I think he would cost slightly more just because they've lost so many players for free this summer. Like Thuram left on a free, Ben Spaini left on a free. I think Stindl's moved on or retired or moved clubs, but didn't get a fee. I actually looked at goalkeeper because of Onana leaving. It sounds like they're looking at Trubin. Sounds like they're also looking at Jan Sommer, who was linked to Inter before he moved to Bayern. Or maybe it was the summer before, but either way, he has been linked to Inter in the past. I actually don't think he was very impressive for Bayern. I know it was difficult to come into that scenario, but I think he was only on a save percentage was around 67%. Conceded 1.5 more goals than XG suggests he should have. And I'm actually going to suggest a keeper that his options have really thinned out in recent weeks, but he's, David Raya.
Yeah.
David Raya. Feels like a very natural replacement for Onana, similar ball playing ability, and was absolutely superb last year. Had the best save percentage in the Premier League. I think he prevented 5 XG, which was third in the league behind Alisson and Bernd Leno. Man United are going for Onana. Doesn't feel like Chelsea's priority right now, particularly if they're going for Caicedo or another main striker. Is going to be goalkeeper either. It feels like they might just play with Kepa for next year. So it feels like David Raya is a bit stuck, and he's made very clear that he wants to leave Brentford, and it just feels like a bit of a tap-in. I don't think Brentford would sell him for a whole lot of money because he's got so few suitors and he can leave on a free next year. So, David Raya.
Yeah, actually,
I like that one. That's good.
It makes a lot of sense. And I still think that is a dream signing because they're going to make a profit on Onana and also bring in a very, very talented...
He's not that much older.
Yeah, and I think that going for the Shakhtar keeper, Trubin, listen, could easily be wrong. I haven't watched the guy play much football, but that's a lot of weight to put on someone's shoulders, whereas David Raya, I think, could take it. So, 4-4. Here we go.
Oh.
Here we go. And we've got Napoli, Leipzig and Bayern remaining. Let's go to Napoli because I think you know what I want. I want a new centre-half.
Yes,
I want a centre-half replacement
do.
for my man Kim Min-jae. Dukes, who you giving me?
Slabhead. Harry.
No.
Harry Maguire.
Wow.
Bring him in.
I'm only
You
laughing.
know what? I don't mind it.
Release the Maguire.
A left-sided centre-back. Great in the air. Good with it, brings the ball out from
Basics
the
of
back.
defending.
I'm only laughing because Deegs looked directly me in the eye and then said Slavhead.
Yeah.
Very
I
good.
actually really hate that nickname. I think
Yeah.
it's too personal.
I like Harry
regret
Maguire.
saying
I really
it.
like
He
Harry
is,
Maguire.
a very much maligned footballer, and it is really unfair. But look, they were looking at Max Kilman. Don't think Wolves want to sell him. They're trying to offer him a new deal.
Slightly odd as well.
And well, I think he's he's like a younger version of Maguire. I think they've got quite a similar skill set. Maguire can play on the left side where Kim played. His basics of defending are very good. He's better on the ball than people give him credit for as well. And when there's enough protection in front of him, which there would be with that midfield, which functions much, much better than Man United's in the final days of Maguire being a regular starter there, I actually think he has the potential to succeed in Serie A. I mean, he's a better player than Chris Smalling, and Smalling's taken that league, I think, by storm is a bit of a stretch, but he's looked very good in Serie A. And I think Maguire, Man United would be up for selling him. Napoli's the right stature of club for him. Get him in.
Yeah, that's a great shot. Maguire didn't even cross my mind, but actually he's, in terms of, left side of defence, I do like that shout. I've gone for someone slightly younger, who I also am really happy with in terms of a replacement for Kim Min-jae. I've gone for Axel Disasi at Monaco. Just looking at his numbers last season, they're just so impressive. He's quite versatile too. He played on the right side of the centre-back pairing when Badiashile was there, and then when Badiashile left, he moved to the left. He's got a lot of experience, 25 years old, same age that when Kim joined last year. He profiles quite similarly to him. He wins around the same amount of aerial duels per game, but has a better aerial duel win percentage. All his kind of passing, he's great at passing out from the back. Has played in a kind of quite expansive system at Monaco. Ranks among all the top centre halves in Europe for playing out from the back, for progressive passes, progressive carries, etc. I just think he'll be, and he feels a little bit more like a Napoli signing than someone like Maguire. I think Maguire would do well at Napoli. I really like that shout. But I just think Disasi feels a bit more like someone that they can rely on
and
for a number
with,
of years. I think he'd be great.
Yeah, I think that's more of a.
And he's also super physical. So I talk about him like playing out from the back. He is a very physical player as well. His anticipation is great.
I hope Maguire goes to Italy in some form, context, even if it's Roma, because Smalling's aging out. Even if it's like a loan to Inter, or even But at this moment in time, I think Disasi is
the dream.
I think that would be a really great signing for Napoli because you can retain some sell-on value. He is making noise that he wants to move on. I actually don't think going to Manchester United to be another centre-half is the right decision for him. He could go to Napoli and be a starter, be a star. And it depends what kind of football they play next year. If it's a continuation on from Spalletti under Garcia, who I'm intrigued to see how he gets on, then I think it could be fun. So yes, I'm going to go for Disasi on this one. Okay.
Tight.
We're going to do it.
We're going to end on Bayern, are we?
End on Bayern, because I think there's going to be some big names, so stick around for that. Let's go for Leipzig then. And again, I'm pretty open to your suggestions here. They've bought in a lot of bodies this summer. Baumgartner as an attacking midfielder. They've got Carvalho. Šeško up top as well. And then Riewald, who's like a central midfielder. They bought in from Salzburg as well. He's a defensive minded, so he's kind of like a Konrad Laimer, like for like in many ways. So
is it Riewald or is it Sievald?
Sievald. Yep. In that, so then I'm looking at the defence, and I'm thinking maybe a Benjamin Heinrichs alternative at right back, but to be honest, and I think they're getting Lukeba at centre half. I think I've read that they are pushing forward with that deal, but yeah. Anywhere in the defence really is what I'm thinking, but I'm open to suggestions.
Let's go first.
I can go first. I found this really tough actually with Leipzig, just because they have already done quite a lot of business in terms of filling those gaps, and it's like, will Carvalho definitely replace the output of Szoboszlai? I think he could actually. I think the Nkunku replacement is the harder one, isn't it? But they have already, they've brought in Sesko. Baumgartner will also add more goals from midfield. So it's like, and also they do still have Timo Werner up top. It's a hard one to call. Andre Silva as well. I feel like, although he hasn't really worked out there, has he? But I did go for a right back. I went for like a Henriks kind of upgrade, or at least in the long term, because I think him and Halstenberg, they are upgradable. I went a little bit more obscure. I went for Arnaud Martinez from Girona, just because he had a great season last year. 3 goals and 4 assists for Girona. He only turned 20, I think, in April. So he's super, super young. Feels like a bit of a Leipzig signing. His expected assist per 90 was better than both Halstenberg and Henriks, playing in a more limited side, although Girona did play some good football last year as well. It feels like, I don't know, it feels like quite a Leipzig signing. Is it like a big dream signing? Not necessarily, but Leipzig just don't tend to make those really, so I found it quite hard to think of someone. Yes, they could spend like all the money from Nkunku on like a big striker, but it's just they just don't really operate in that market, do they? So I thought someone like Arnaud Martinez would be a good pickup for them.
Dukes, there's a big chance for you here. There's a very big chance for you.
Open goal.
I'm glad we're actually talking about the defence, because people will look at the Bundesliga table last year and they only finished 5 points behind Bayern and Dortmund. Bayern obviously winning on goal difference, but the biggest gap was actually in terms of goals scored. But I actually think it's almost impossible for them to get up to close that gap on the other two teams just with one attacking signing. So I think actually the biggest difference point is probably if they go back to try and being the best defence in the league. I think, as you say, you could improve all across that back line. I do like Mohamed Simakan as a right back sometimes. So I think he could be that Benjamin Hendricks sort of upgrade. I actually wanted someone that could come in and go some way to replace Josko Gvardiol, and I went for Piero Hincapié of Bayer Leverkusen. Can also play as a left back as well, but did play the majority of his football last year in the centre for Xabi Alonso. Has been used in a back 3, has been used in a back 4, which is often quite Leipzig style, and is a very good ball-carrying centre-half and is super aggressive and proactive as well, kind of like Gvardiol. So I thought he'd be a reasonably gettable target. Maybe £40 million would probably do it, but if you've got €100 million coming in from Gvardiol, I think that is potentially quite gettable.
I quite like it as well, because it's also a big man to their Bundesliga rivals, a bigger name at this moment in time, and he is wanted by lots of European teams. So I think as a dream move, I think Hincapié is the one.
I think that's right. I kind of forget just how much money they're bringing in sales this summer. It's mad.
It is mad.
Very worthy winner there.
Right, it all comes down to Bayern.
5. Yes.
Which positions were you thinking?
Well, I think it's pretty documented what they're after. They're looking for a right back with a bit more thrust, in principle, because that's essentially why they're going for Kyle Walker, isn't it? Or they're going for a centre forward as an Eric Choupo-Moting replacement. Unless you've been living under a rock, they're going for Harry Kane very publicly. So I imagine you've gone for centre forwards. The floor is both of yours.
Go on, Dukes.
Oh, goodness, didn't want to go first. Yes, Bayern, they've already been quite busy, despite what a lot of people think. I think Kim Min-jae, Rafael Guerrero, Konrad Laimer, 3 good signings, but
good signings.
They are short of a really, really top strike. I think Matthias Tell, people are actually really excited about what he could become. But Choupo-Moting, as you say, 34, 33, definitely needs upgrading. Someone going in there that can hit the ground running. I think Julian Alvarez is probably their dream. I don't see City selling him. I think they've extended his deal to 2028, halfway through last year, and because he can also play in the positions off Haaland as well. It doesn't feel like City are going to think about selling him just yet. I'm actually going to go for a quite well-rounded striker who I think that they could get with the Kane money that they are currently offering, and go with Randall Kolo Muani. Did you go for him as well?
Yeah.
It's a dead heat.
It's a dead heat. But I just think it does make sense. He got 15 goals, 11 assists last year, and actually his expected assist numbers were really impressive. Last year in Eintracht Frankfurt side that didn't have that much creativity as well, he was just knocking in the goals, and he was pretty much running that entire team. And I know people talk about Mario Götze having a really good season, but it really was a one-man show, which is completely different to Eintracht Frankfurt in years gone past. And I think he could be got for the money they are offering for Kane right now.
Yeah, I agree with you.
It's an easy move for him as well, isn't it? he was just so good. He was so good. Like, yeah, top 7% of strikers for progressive carries. Yeah, I don't really need to say much more really. And did you touch on him at the World Cup just then? As
I didn't.
I did, but like yeah, sorry. I feel like sometimes when like there's I'll tune in and then like I'll miss a bit. But I think I think he'll be. Like, maybe it's a bit cheesy, but it's just like, I don't know, like when you saw him at the World Cup stepping up on such a big stage in a team full of superstars, he was so impressive every time you saw him in the latter stages. I think the kind of pressure of coming into that position at Bayern is great, and he's at a great age, isn't he? Like, I just think, he does have, there are goal scorers all around him in that team who he can create for. He doesn't need to be the Lewandowski player, which Harry Kane would be. He can kind of transform that team in a way that I guess they were hoping with Mane, and it didn't happen. So yeah,
can pull wide as well. I think his link up with the other players around him would be really good.
I mean, you're both suggesting the same.
I know.
So I'm
it's a draw.
I'm going to accept it. It's a draw. I mean, I was thinking maybe we could do a Marseille signing, but you know what? It's a draw. I think it's a draw. All right. 5.5 points each.
We could do rock paper scissors maybe, but.
That proves
nothing.
Do we
risk it all?
that proves absolutely nothing. Yeah, no, it's a draw, and I'm very satisfied with the business that has been done. Mitrovic, have a good time in Milan.
Who knows? By the time this video goes live tomorrow, it could have all changed. Maybe Harry Kane's already signed for PSG. Maybe Mitrovic has confirmed he is staying at Fulham. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you, Henry, for being our sporting director. I hope you guys enjoyed those suggestions. But crucially, we want to hear from you. Who do you think won? And what were your suggestions for all of those clubs? Did you disagree with any of our shouts? Etc, etc. Let us know your thoughts, in the comments down below. Thank you so much for watching Continental Club for another week. Anything you guys would recommend, McCurbs?
I'm trying to think. Yeah, just go and check out Monday Vibes from the weekend. I think there was a lot
of
talk
wrote a 10?
about. I did. Yeah, players that need to be sold by their clubs this summer, featuring a couple of players actually who were in this video. So go and check that out as well.
Nice, Henry.
Yeah, on Saturday we have an Explained coming out about the Women's World Cup, the ultimate guide to the Women's World Cup. I'm really hoping we'll be talking a bit about it throughout the tournament. Super excited. There's some massive names there this year. My housemate went to a gig last night and sat next to Leah Williamson.
She's everywhere.
She wasn't obviously not going, but that was pretty exciting. Yeah. But yes, the Women's World Cup, it's going to be really cool, and I'm super excited for it, and really hoping that England can do the business.
Absolutely. Go on the Lionesses. I was about to say the young Lions. That's the under-21 side. If the under-21s and the Lionesses win in the same summer, that'd be really pretty special. Guys, thank you so much for watching. We will catch you next time. Bye-bye.